see the Frozen Head State Park Natural Area signs. All of our hikes here will go up into the natural areas. For today's hike, we're going to go past the park office. We're going to follow this parking lot. And I'll give you an idea there of what you're looking at and looking for. Flat Fork is just across the parking area here. And this is our route up valley. Bob and I are in Frozen Head State Park and Natural Area, and we've just started up the trail up the main stream called Flat Fork here in Flat Fork Valley. And last night we had a cold front come through. Even though it's mid-May, we're looking at about 44 degrees this morning, and the storm knocked some limbs and leaves and flowers out, and that gives us an opportunity to look at the state tree of Tennessee, the tulip poplar. Now, when I look at a tulip poplar flower, which you can kind of get this unique look at right now, when you look at a tulip poplar flower, I immediately think, wow, that looks like a magnolia, just in the huge number of stamens and the way it's arranged. And you would be right. This tulip poplar is in the magnolia family. So it has an architectural arrangement not so terribly different from a pine cone. It has a central cone-like structure where the female carpels are found, and then many stamens. I'm just going to pluck one out of here. Many stamens around the outside. Just its nature is typical of early evolutionary characteristics of flowering plants. Now, tulip poplars play a key role in the forest ecosystems. They're pioneer trees. They come in early after land is logged or cleared for farming and then goes back to the forest. A tulip poplar will move in along with a series of other pioneer trees, but only a tulip poplar can stay all the way through different forest changes to the end point of all those forest changes. So it can live 300, 400 years. The largest trees in Tennessee are tulip poplars. First governor of the state of Tennessee, when he moved into Tennessee in Sevier County, lived in a tulip poplar tree. They're that big, 25, 26 feet in circumference. We have trees like that today, and reports of ones over 30 feet in circumference. They make a pretty nice living room. This tree, in the background you can see a couple of young ones. Now, these aren't very old trees. They will grow at a very rapid rate. Now, after pollination occurs and this sets fruit, these petals will fall away, but the cone, the central cone, will stay. And out of there will develop what you're used to seeing are those little kind of mini helicopters that flitter down in the fall in heavy winds. And we're going to come back in the fall and pick this up again and continue the story of the state tree of Tennessee. So the unique leaf pattern, smooth on the outside. No other tree has a pattern like this. Alternate leaves, beautiful flower. Be on the watch for these because they're light green. You can miss them. You can look up in the tree and not see them. So in mid-May, watch for them, and we'll visit them again during the different seasons. Frozen Head State Park and Natural Area, like much of the Cumberland, is noted for the number of waterfalls that they have. So you come to Frozen Head when the water is high, Now, not in August, but when the water is in springtime, like mid-May, where we are right now, and you're going to see some fantastic waterfalls. I've often thought that the state of Tennessee could get a lot of mileage out of a waterfall trail that included this sort of small DeBoard Falls and Frozen Head State Park, but we have, so many 100-foot waterfalls along the escarpment of the Cumberland Plateau that it is a beautiful area and one of our favorites. So water flow is good right here. At this very location a few years ago, I caught a Cumberland salamander, one of the many rare species that's found in Frozen Head, and what a treasure this protected valley is, never having seen the runoff from strip mining, never having seen in the last 100 years any serious logging. So it's a great place to come and just enjoy the Cumberland Mountains. I'd like you to listen for the wood thrush. Right there. Right there. That's the beautiful voice of the wood thrush. Intermingled, we've also heard a variety of other neotropical migrants as well as local nesting birds. Many people consider the wood thrush to be our prettiest songster here in Tennessee. You can hear Flat Fork behind us. The wood thrush is just in front of me. Right there. We're walking through the dark forest today, early in the morning. Big rain yesterday, more rain to come this afternoon. A perfect time to find several animals like box turtles and this eastern red-spotted newt. And look at it. When this animal, this beautiful, brightly colored salamander, was right out in the middle of an open trail. Now, what keeps it from being gobbled up by blue jays and crows and all manner of animals is simple. This secretes a skin poison from glands along the dorsum. This is pretty nasty. Nothing's going to pick this up and eat it after a single taste. So the western newt has caused human deaths. I don't know of any deaths attributed to the eastern, but it's thought to be a neurotoxin, and it's powerful enough that they can walk around with impunity right out here in the open, right out on the trail where anyone can see it, including any predator. Now, this has a fascinating life history. This red-spotted newt is the land stage. Now, it comes out of the water where the eggs hatch, usually in a small pond, and then after staying in the water for a period of time, moves out onto the land in the land stage, or sometimes called the red F stage. It stays out on the land for a number of years, maybe a couple of years, maybe sometimes 6, 7, 8 years. And then, for reasons we don't completely understand and correlating to hormonal changes, it turns around and moves back to a pond, a body of water. It then undergoes a complete metamorphosis, changes its physical appearance entirely, becomes greenish yellow on top and bottom, blends right in with the pond, and reproduces in the pond. Males and females come back, and it may live then another couple of years in the pond. So it is a sort of amazing change. This is the land stage. We will undoubtedly, over the course of our filming, find the aquatic stage, and I'll show you that next. And it'll be completely different with aquatic adaptations. This, as you can see, moves pretty good for a salamander, and unlike most salamanders that you see, this salamander has lungs. Most salamanders in our area are plethodonid salamanders, which means that they are lungless. This salamander is a completely different family, has lungs, very well adapted to the land, but it will be very well adapted to the water when it becomes the aquatic stage of the red F. So, warning coloration, oh, you won't see much better warning coloration. And we think the reddish salamanders, like the northern red, the mud salamander, are mimics of this poisonous. So, as long as you don't eat it, harmless. And most of you will be able to keep from taking a little nibble off this, and you probably only take one if you ever do. One of the things that gives frozen head its incredible species diversity is the amount of rainfall that it captures here. On average, about 10 more inches than Knoxville, for example. And you're seeing part of that influx of rain. That the higher peaks here in Frozen Head, just under 3,500 feet, can trap that rain and move those clouds around, and that leads to what you're seeing as we pan across the upper reaches of Panther Gap off the Panther Gap Trail. At this point, you're topping out of the Panther Gap Trail and merging on to North Olmac. So at this junction, to my left, North Olmac will take you up to the observation tower and near the Panther Gap area. Coffin Springs, great area, fun area to go. So you could make a left here and make this a longer trail. Today we're going to go right, and we're going down North Olmac back down towards where we parked the car for a little shorter walk. So when you make this part, follow the trail sign North Olmac to the park office, and now you're on North Olmac, and the rest of your steps are going to be downhill. Our trail today has a wonderful place to have lunch just past the intersection of Panther Gap Trail and North Old Mountain. As you just start down slope, look for an obvious trail to your right out to a campsite. And when you walk out to the campsite, once you get there, off to the left is this rock outcropping. Again, this Pennsylvania sandstone. There are a series of rock outcrops here that give us beautiful views across the Flat Fork Valley and to the crest of the ridge line where the Cumberland Trail will run. Now, part of that trail is in right now and loops around back into Frozen Head. We'll do that on another day, but it will eventually follow the crest of Bird Mountain all the way into Wartburg. So right now, the front that's moved through overnight, we're catching the tail end of it, and the skies are turning blue, and you can see the steam, the humidity rising off of the slope there of Bird Mountain. It's a beautiful place to have lunch, and lunch is one of the things we feel like we do best. As you're making the journey down North Olmac and losing elevation on this beautifully graded trail, you might want to pass the time by just admiring the ferns that are along the way. And there are probably 10 or 12 species just down through here. Well, one of my favorites, and I think one of the most beautiful of the ferns, is the maidenhair fern, Adiantum pedatum, scientific name. It is a beautiful fern with a dark purple making up the stems and these beautiful and delicate green leaf-like structures flowing out. This is just up. Of course, over the winter, this particular fern is deciduous, so it dies back. And another thing it does that's really interesting is this ferns have an alternation of generations lifestyle. And that means that over their life history, they alternate between a diploid sporophyte stage and a haploid gametophyte stage. Now, diploid means two sets of chromosomes, and every cell in my body is diploid except for the sperm cells. And the sperm cells are haploid. Now, every cell in this is diploid except for the spores that it makes. The end product of meiosis in an animal is a sperm or egg cell. The end product of meiosis in a plant is a spore. And the spore will make a gametophyte, and that word gametophyte, gamete and phyte, P-H-Y-T-E is Latin for plant, it's the gamete. So it'll make a sperm or egg, just not directly as a product of meiosis. Now, the place where that's done is in the source. And these have sori on the underside of the leaves where the leaf at the edge of the plant just flaps over, and in that little groove right there is where meiosis occurs, and the little structure is called sporangia, and it's protected just by that flap of the leaf. What does the sori look like? A sori is just a collection of sporangia. Can be a key to identification of ferns. Now this one's easy to identify because of its unique structure, in its beautiful display of petals. The architecture alone will key you right in. So this maidenhair fern is quite a beauty. Now, as you're going down, you're also going to see a number of other ferns. We don't have to go far. Right here is perhaps the most common fern you're going to see in your hiking in this part of the world, and this is a Christmas fern. And most of these leaves are up new for this year. It is evergreen, so it stays green over the winter. And those are the ones on the underside. And it puts its sori, look, it puts its sori on the tips of its leaves. Notice that the leaves suddenly become reduced, and all of a sudden, on the underside of those reduced leaf-like structures, you will find the sori. And that is where meiosis will occur. And all of these, now, they're not mature yet. They're just starting, but they will mature shortly. They will form gametophytes, the sperm will fertilize the egg, and a new Christmas plant will grow up. One of the things you can look for in identifying Christmas ferns, besides the reduction in the leaves and the fact that it's only, once cut, is that the little leaf, and we'll show this as a blow-up, looks a little bit like, with a little imagination, a Christmas stocking. So you put your little nail right there, and there's your Christmas stocking. So looking at the structure of this little leaflet, you should be able to identify Christmas fern as you're walking down. There are a number of other ferns along the way at my feet right here, or broad beach fern. So keep yourself entertained as you're losing elevation by just enjoying all the many, many different kinds of leaves typical of this forest.